And we are live. How's everyone doing out there? This is Carmine Danisco with the Launch Network. We have our 10th show of the UA Workshop series. We've been blowing these out. We've had some awesome guests, awesome products, awesome people, awesome pitches. It has been a cool experience. I want to bring on my co-host, who is also going to be doubling down today as a panelist. He's on the hot seat, Mr. Warren Tuttle. Warren, what's happening, my friend?
Hi, Carmine. Thanks for switching around and being the host today. Appreciate that. And you can probably see from my backdrop that I've removed my UIA hat and I'm going to be a panelist today.
I was going to ask you, I said you went to like Africa or something for the show.
Well, I did. I did not recently, but I've been to Kenya a couple of times, and this is Tanzania. But actually, my daughter took this picture. This is Mount Kilimanjaro, and I actually climbed it when I was a kid. So,
of course you did.
I thought that would be appropriate today.
Of course, yeah. That's so fun. That's awesome. Yeah, I know. That's one thing we got to do a show one of these days. A lot of our guests have done a lot of traveling. You have done, a lot of traveling. You're an avid traveler. I'd love to hear about some of the exploits that you've had. But tell me a little bit of stuff that's happening with the UIA. Any news, anything going on?
Well, as you said off the top, this is our 10th week. It's amazing how quickly this goes. It seemed like just over the summer we were planning this whole thing. It's our second 10-week session. So now we've completed 20 shows. And for everybody out there, we're already working on starting this up again after the first of the year. It's been really well received. Our numbers have been growing big time every week. And as we put more resources into the YouTube channel, it's really been awesome. So thank you, Carmine, for all your help in making this happen. And we're gonna invest some serious resources in really growing this out tenfold next year.
Yeah, well, we've had some great feedback from people. I love when people let us know what they need to know, because it really helps us deliver the content that people are looking for, and it's really cool. They don't want to just hear us all yapping away if it's not something that they can use. So between the UIA and a lot of our board members and our guests, we have really delivered some awesome content and information. But yeah, let's get started with today's show. And today we kind of saved, I want to save best for last, but I don't want to backtrack on some of our awesome guests out there. This is going to be a great show because not only you, Warren, as a panelist, it's going to be, but our guest, Mr. Michael Van Horst, has really come up the ranks. He's been really working on this product for a while. He's gone through, I'm sure, many prototypes is what we're going to talk about, but he's really put in his dues. He's an awesome product. He's also a frequent guest now in HSN and QVC. He's selling his products all the way. So let's kind of bring him on and get the show on the road, right? Hey, Michael, you out there?
Absolutely, right here. Thanks for having me, guys. Always a pleasure.
Oh, thanks for coming on. Warren and I have been talking about this show for a while. He jumped in, he switched with me so that he could talk to you a little bit about it. Warren himself has been on QVC and HSN several times too. So he kind of has that feeling. But Mike, tell us a little bit about, that HSN experience, that QVC experience. I mean, to me, it would be nerve-wracking as hell.
Well, absolutely. It's fast and furious, when they come at you, and you realize that first of all, you go through a lot of testing with them. You go through what they call their guest hosting class, and you go through these little things, and you go through your little scenarios and how you're going to be on air and things like that. So, but once you get that final call, it's a matter of just a couple of days, and then you go on, and then the guest host will come on and sort of introduce you, and then they say it's kind of go time, and you go, and it's the fastest and the longest 8 minutes of your life. You want it to be over, and then all of a sudden it is over, and then you look at yourself and you play it back and you go, what just happened? Oh my gosh. It's so fast to get up there and do as many demos as you can, and that's what they like you to do. And you're trying to do as many demos as you can as they're talking to you and you're talking to them. And then you want to make sure that you're not coming off like it's a speech. You want to actually come off like you're actually talking to somebody as if you're in your own house. And it is absolutely crazy. I fumbled a couple times getting on the first couple times I went on. It always happens. First time on air, you get really sort of really, really nervous, let me tell you. And then you're talking about your baby that you've been working on for 3 years. This is your only chance as to get on these platforms, and you're very fortunate to be on. And, QVC and HSN, it's all about the numbers, guys. So, during that 8 minutes, it's not about how many units you've sold, but it's out how many dollars you've done per minute. And that's how they equate it out. So that's what gets you back to the next show and the next one after that. And so you could be on once and completely never come back, or you could be on 10 times or 100 times or whatever. But That's really interesting. Yeah.
Mike,
Wow.
it's cool because I've known Mike for a long time since he started this project. So it's really great having him on as a guest today because he can really, a lot of our people watching today are really going to relate to Mike's story. But I have a funny QVC story. Mike, the first time I went, and kind of like you, I had a product called Stir Chef, and I went down and wasn't sure what to expect, right? So you get on the set, right? And like you said, it's the quickest 8 minutes of your life, right? They start the show. So there's a couple of guys. If you do this from home, it's a little different. But when you're on set, they've got like 4 cameras, and the cameramen are wheeling them around. And there's one guy on his knees on the kitchen counter, like with a camera, like a foot from your face. Like, so this is quite intimidating. And I'm talking away, and accidentally, Mike, they gave me the host feed. So in my ear, I'm hearing he's talking way too much. Slow him down. You take over the show. They're talking to the host. Somehow they switch feeds, and I'm listening to what they're saying. It was so weird. And meanwhile, Mike, right in front of us, like on the floor is this TV, and I can see the numbers, and I'm like, 900, 1,000, 1,100, 1,200, and then I'm calculating $23.99. I'm doing the math. How many minutes? I'm looking at my watch. I'm doing all this math when I'm supposed to be talking about how much we're doing, like you said, per minute, right? And the whole thing was just bizarre, the first time I went on. I was just so embarrassed when I watched it later.
Well, they do that. They do that at home as well, and how I'm doing it right now. And in fact, I'm sitting in my little QVC set that I have made up in my own home here. But because of COVID and everything, we're not allowed to go on set because of all the regulations. So HSN and QVC have adapted to doing the sort of Skype shows on TV. And to them, it's really picking up. The audience is really catching hold of it, and they really love it, that aspect of it, because they feel you're like in your own living room with the Inventor, and it works out well. But what you just said, Warren, same thing. I had the producer talking to me at home, and they would tell you, they love that demo, do that again, or do this, or look up or look down, and you're trying to concentrate on everything you're doing. With that guy talking to you. And I got to tell you, it's nerve-wracking.
Well, what they do is, as you know, Mike, but for those who are watching, haven't been through the experience, and I consider going on QVC a bucket experience, like climbing Kilimanjaro. Once you've done it, but they actually have someone monitoring it, and they can see the sales spike when the host asks certain questions, and like when Mike's selling his product and he says certain things. So they capture that, and then they back in your ear saying, repeat that, because they know that every time you talk about a certain subject, it drives the sales.
Wow, that's awesome.
And then you see that little clock at the end, and it's ticking down from like 20 seconds to the end, and you've got 1,000 things in your mind that you're trying to figure out, what am I going to say in the last 10 seconds that's going to make you buy my product, And so,
Mike, if they don't sell them, after all that you've been through, quality control, all those things, they're coming back to you on a truck.
So Mike, for our listeners, you are the inventor of the incredibly successful, I think, the push and hang product. Let's back up a little bit. I mean, this show is about, prototypes and getting your product out there and really being truthful about your prototypes and how do you do it. And, you've done all that. Why don't you give us a little bit of your backstory and tell us something about, your positives, some of the failures, some of the things that happened along the route. And I want to get some feedback from Warren also, because, we get a lot of feedback about if you need a prototype, don't need a prototype, what type of prototype. There's so many different scenarios. I'd love to get your feedback on this.
Show us the product too.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me tell you a little bit about my backstory here, right? Sort of where I came from and whatever. But we grew up in a family of 5 siblings. We're relatively a very poor family, and my dad was a very hands-on guy. He was a 3rd generation Firestone tire. His grandfather was Firestone Tire work. They were all engineers. I was a kid that sort of came up, was kind of come up in those ranks. The engineer thing really wasn't my thing, but everybody used to call me. You remember the old show MacGyver on TV? Everybody used to call me MacGyver. Even as a kid. I mean, I would take vacuum cleaners apart just to see what's inside and put them back together. That's how I did growing up. I was always hands-on, and my father always told me. He said, Mike, he says, think with your hands and the mind will follow. So, that was a lot of my hands-on experience, because I always worked with my hands, and then I would think about what I'm doing and equates that to how I could make that easier, simpler for somebody to use and go through that route. There was a point in my life where I lived in a water tower that you see on a farm. I actually had to climb upstairs with a trap door. I lived on a water tower for 3 years, a very humbling experience, on life in general, And I went on to work for a Fortune 500 company for about 20 years, won the President's Award with that company, very fortunate. And I won that for innovative packaging of all things way back in the late 70s, early 80s for that company. So I won the award, which they give out to one person a year. So that was a very, very exciting time for me. And then interesting about some corporate companies, and I'd let you know, me and a couple of gentlemen opened up a third-party contracting company for them to alleviate their sales staff from doing things. And they shut our division down. And they're still using our process today. So after corporate, I went into real estate for another 20 years. And that's sort of where I came up with my aha moment for the push and hang. Every time I'd close on a property, I'd be welcome back like a month later. And the thing we procrastinate about the most is hanging things on the wall. When I did a lot of my research, do you know there's an average of 27 to 31 items on everybody's wall in America? Think of how many things are hanging on a wall. It's just incredible. So I'd be welcome back, and the first thing I'd see, their picture would be laying on the floor all along the hallway, right? We all do it. We procrastinate. We get the house in order, but it's the last thing we put on the wall. So I'd always ask them, why aren't you putting your stuff up? That's what brings the house together, brings the home together. They say, Mike, I can't find my tools. I don't have the time. I'll get to it later, and I hear that over and over again. And my wife would struggle with it as well. A lot of us, we're just not handy with tools. We're not familiar with them. We don't like messing with them. And for thousands of years, we've been doing this thing called, hammer, nail, right? That's the simplicity of hanging something that's always stuck with us. Mm-hmm. And, when we talk about prototyping and even things that's going into a patent, a little interesting story about my patents too. I have three really good patents on this with design and utility patents. But going back with the patent office, and this is what was really turned me into getting this thing really rolling too, is, nobody's ever put the nail on the wall, ever. Because we're still thinking nail, hammer, And so when I first started prototyping, I thought, okay, let's think about how we're going to do that, right? So I'm going to give you a little bit of a run through of how I came through prototyping, okay? Right. So this will kind of let you know. This is before I even came up with even a drawing, okay? Most of us start with an idea and a drawing and things like this. I thought about this thing in my mind. How can we get the picture on the wall easier? How can we mark the holes, whatever, right? So we all know there's 1,000 marking tools out there. Well, look at this little sort of Star Wars kind of glasses I've got, right? There's two infrared beams on here. And this is what's funny about this. My wife thought I was just absolutely insane. The human body is incredible. Norman, I know you're laughing, but this little thing actually worked, but I didn't take it any farther. But it's got beams on it. So when you stand up, your head self-leveling, it actually puts the holes exactly level, which is interesting. Wow. So I would walk up to the wall and just mark where you're going to hang the picture. And it worked. So, but I thought, let's go one step beyond that. I thought, why hasn't anybody put the nail on the wall for you? We're marking, everybody's marking. But then what do you have to do, right? You have to still go back and you still have to grab that hammer and grab that nail, And so I learned throughout this process, it's not the tool that is the issue when you're hanging something or doing something as simple as you think this is. It's always that you have to go back and you have to do it manually. You could have the best level in the world and you can mark it. And this is what people do. And you get so frustrated by it. And then you grab a drill, a hammer, nail, whatever it's going to take. You put one in. Well, when you put the first one in, the second one, it's never going in exactly how you did the first one because you're off a little bit. And when you hang it, you go, I don't get it. I just took 2 hours hanging this picture. It's still like this. So that's why I came up. That was kind of my aha moment. I go, let's put the nails in the wall for you. So that's what I did. So once I had these crazy glasses, I went out in the garage and this is what I did. Okay. Oh. And this is so simple for people. When you think about just whittling something together, right? Here's a piece of wood with a little piece of metal and a knob from a cabinet I had in the house, right? And I thought, okay, how can I get the nail to go in the wall for you, And so that's kind of how it all started right there. And from there, that's where I came up. That's when I started doing my drawing. Here's one of my early drawings. It's a little hard to see, but yeah, we see it. I started drawing out sort of a plunger, something that I can get the nails in the wall for you, right? So then I moved on and sort of came up with different aspects, and we moved on to this really crude idea here. So these are just 3D handles. very inexpensive to have done. Okay. And a lot of these things I'm going to show you are really inexpensive to have done. So you're not going to spend a lot of money doing it. And the thing about prototyping, especially as you get into it, I don't think it's necessary to get fully vested in a really working prototype until you've done your homework a little bit, right? I see so many people that have called me, and boy, I love helping inventors. That's like my thing now. So when they call, and the first thing they do is they show me this, that they went out and had these CAD drawings and spent all this money, and not only that, but back up a little bit. And the first thing they do is they get a patent, and they spend $20,000 on a patent, and they don't even have a viable product yet. They basically just have something on a piece of paper. They haven't gone through the so-called steps. And I got to tell you, for all the inventors, everybody that's listening, this is a process. I mean, we all talk about it. This is a process. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. And I will tell you, in this industry, nobody's in a hurry. Okay. It does take 2 to 4 years to get a product to life, to get it on the shelf. And if you actually get that far and you're lucky, it takes that long. But there's a process that we all really need to go by. And there's a tremendous amount of inventors out there, especially guys like Carmen, Warren, that really stand behind inventors and are always there for you when you need them. So it's a good place to start and work with them as well. So once I actually got the drawing down, then that's when I started talking about going into talking to some CAD drawings, talking to some engineers, things about moving that process on a little bit. I had done a lot of my upfront prior art search. I did a lot of focus groups, not just family and friends, but I actually went out. I actually made a handheld thing like the Fuller Brush Man, and I actually carried a wall I made out of sheetrock that I carried door to door, and I knocked on doors, and they looked at me like, what do you got? What can I help you? And so, I would talk to them about hanging things on the wall, and how do you go through that process? And most of them were pretty receptive, and I'd give them a demo right there on their porch. I'd have my little wall standing there, So that's how I started with a lot of that process. And then I actually went to retail. Guys, you can do this. Anybody that's inventing has a product, and I just did it with prototypes. I didn't do it with a full working product yet, but I did pop up. Not little sales, but pop-up little focus things outside of retail. And a lot of them really, I had a couple of no's, but the majority of them, they said absolutely yes. I would set out front with their store. I'd have a little easy up. I'd ask questions of people walking in, do you always have problems doing this? Tell me how you resolve it, this kind of thing. And so I did a lot of those, and that really helped me understand that there really was a need for this.
Mike, those are small stores? Mike, those are like small Main Street type of stores?
Yeah, like mom and pop hardware stores, things like this, that you can stand in front of and do this for. I did it for some other, a couple of big box retail that actually were really apt to let me do that and just sit out there with my thing as long as I didn't interfere with their own, ongoing store, process. But yeah, I got to tell you that was kind of a neat experience. It really helped me generate a lot of data for what I need to do to take that next step forward, And so I really recommend that if guys get an idea to do that. And not only like what Warren does and like what I did to the National Hardware Show and a lot of these, I'd go online and I'd enter as many pitch competitions as I could. I would do that consistently, as much as you can pitch your product and get it out there. It's only going to help you just that much further in the future, and those are wonderful things to do. It not only creates you to get up on stage and feel comfortable in front of people, but actually talking about your product, learning what you need to do in that couple of minutes that you have to pitch. It's a fantastic program, and there's a lot of them out there that are free that you can do, that you can join, and I would recommend that as well to everybody. So let me move on just a little bit and show you what we did. So from this little crude idea right here, then we started running into this little idea right here. Wow. Now we're getting into a double plunger, right? Now it's actually gonna plunge and put the nail in the wall for you, And so this is how I sort of came across that. Had a lot of different things that I had to go through with that. There's a lot of things you had to figure out, where's that nail gonna be on the wall and how's it gonna work correctly for you? Because my push and hang actually puts that nail in the right angle of depth for you in 1 second. So it actually does everything for you. But I had issues of, when I pressed on it, it was lifting off the wall this way, lifting off the wall that way. A lot of different things that you have to do to get into that. And then, of course, this is the baby right here. This was 9 prototypes later. A lot of tweaking going on, that I had to go through this to get it right. It's got a floating handle on one side. Of course, it's got your bubble level in the center and things like that. So it's always it's always perfectly level for you. But what's nice about this product as well is we all do craft items. The holidays are coming up, things like that. But you slide this off. This is in everybody's drawer. When you slide this single handle off and it holds anything up to 5 pounds, I tell you, this is a lifesaver. And this is one of my main comments that I get over and over again. Not only with the single handle, but the double is, you know, Mike, I can do this myself. I don't have to grab any tools. I don't have to wait for somebody to come home. They're so excited about it. So that's what's really generated the interest is you can do this yourself at virtually any age. So wow. It's been a fun venture to get to that point.
Wow, that is wild. I mean, the great part about it is you saw early on that not only creating a prototype would prove your proof of concept, but it has to be demonstrable. No, you know, we can't rely on people to have an imagination if they're going to buy your product. So being able to show them how easy it is so important through that prototyping stage. And just from your prototypes, I mean, yes, they're different, but if you really look at them, they're not that far off. I mean, you were pretty close right from the beginning.
Yeah, it just sort of evolved into what was going to be attractive at the end result when you go to retail, especially this. You know, the lime green, you can see this from 50 feet away when you're walking down an aisle. And I often tell people, you know, if everybody's product is red on the shelf, you don't want a red. Okay. You want to pick a different color, but you want something that's going to attract you first to your product, and then maybe they'll look around. But yeah, even down to the color, you know, and of course, color trends change year after year. So that's sort of another thing too. But if, you know, stick with something that's going to be very attractive as soon as I walk up and see it. Wow. But yeah, the whole demonstrable thing and going through and trying to demonstrate, you hear it on things like Shark Tank all the time, right? What do the sharks say, right? Well, who am I going to place in each store to demonstrate your product? You know, we don't have that ability to do that. You know, I created, this is a little off tick a little bit, but I created an app. I don't even think I talked to you about it. Did I warn my app that's coming out?
No, tell us. No. Yeah.
I'll tell you because it's out. It's actually getting loaded up on Apple iStore and also for Android. But I came up with an app called Scandito, and the little tagline is, do you Scandito? And what I did was, and this is going to help all inventors and entrepreneurs, and I developed this little app because I wanted people to simply walk up to a product, scan the UPC code, not the QR code, because the QR code takes you usually into pages and websites, and you got to filter through a little bit. You're going to scan the UPC code. It's going to allow you to have a 30-second demo to 60-second demo of that product that you just picked up, and that's all you're going to get. It's just a demo. It's not going to go any further. It's going to really give you that idea of, wow, maybe I'm going to buy it right now, or I'm going to come back to it. It's got a history in the app that you can actually, you know, it's going to have a history of things that you scanned, but it's going to be also for manufacturers and inventors can go on there as well, and there'll be a little sideline from the actual consumer. Because you'll be able to register and keep putting your products on there. So I just think it's going to be a little added tool that people can take this and, you know, as you're walking around, you're going to simply scan something and it's going to give you a quick demo of what that is. So, because we always have a problem with that, you know, of not knowing what it is or how it works. So
that's cool. That's really cool. Candido, you said.
Scandito.
Okay, cool.
That's awesome. Like Bandito.
What a great idea.
Well, thank you.
Hey, Warren, real quick, what's your take on the prototyping sequence? I mean, I know you come from the licensing side, and you're an open innovation director. You know, what's your take on the whole process?
Well, let me get to that. Let me highlight a few things too that Mike said and blend them together. So Mike is terrific. He's really done everything the right way, and is a great example of really what it takes. And there's just so many things that he said that. I'm forgetting part of them, but he just covered a whole lot of ground. Part of it, by the way, you reminded me with the color. When I had my product Stir Chef, we put it in a yellow box so that it would stand out. You basically have 1.7 seconds in a store setting for a customer to walk by and decide whether they're going to take a further look at your product or not. So if you don't grab their attention, and I think the idea of scanning and having them visualize it with a video is absolutely awesome. You know, back in the day, Mike, like I remember taking products into Bed Bath & Beyond, you had to spend, you know, tens of thousands of dollars to get them to put a television with a demo tape of your product on it, you know, in all the stores. So that would be a real effective way to do it. So going back, like Mike did too, from the beginning, he really showed the process of that he came up with an idea, then he visualized it literally through the glasses. and then started developing it. And as you heard him say, he tweaked it, and so he went through various iterations, I think 9 of them or whatever, and you have to, continue to develop. So I talk about this a lot in my book, Inventor Confidential, too, and I've been through this process many times. I've been on the other side, that you really need to develop that product, physically, to really see if it functions, if it actually works. To Mike's point early on, I get a lot of products submitted to me that just have a CAD or a movie or something, and it's not even real. And it doesn't have a lot of effect on me anymore, because I've been through it too many times where I've run down products that didn't actually function when you actually made them. So even if you do it by hand, and even if you use your own materials, if you can prove function, and even if it's not attractive, it means so much more to me than a CAD or a video in any event. So switching around and wearing my hat as an open innovation director, because I run open innovation programs for multiple companies, I go through this every day. I get many, many submissions every single day. While we're on the show, I'll probably get 5, and I want to see with people various things that they've gone through all the hard work that Mike's gone through. When I first started talking to Mike, I actually met him at a trade show. So in order to go to the trade show and actually to demo it, he had to have gone through all these experiences and put it together. And then he's got to show it in public, how it functions and works. But it's one of the first questions I ask in my questionnaire. Have you built a prototype? Does it function? And I want honest answers to that, because I'm going to find out. Many times people are just throwing ideas up, and some of them are coached to just throw ideas up. But I have to, work with people if there's something that I like, and go to the second step and say, have you built one? And if they haven't built one, now they've got to make a decision whether they want to. And of course, then they're all saying to me, should I build one? And I'm like, well, this is your choice. You have to decide what you're going to do and how much passion that you have. Sometimes people just have 100 ideas and they're throwing them out there, and then they'll pursue one. I think the way Mike's done it, where he's passionate about one thing and he's figured out that, hey, nobody has solved this particular problem of putting the nail in the wall. It's a big shift, in what makes this thing work. That he's passionate, he goes out. That's usually the successful inventors that I've worked with over the years. So when you come to me, show it. A lot of times also the second part of that is people use their functioning prototype to shoot videos. And I know the one company I worked with for many years, Tektronix Industries in the power tool group, they wouldn't even review or look at an item unless you had a video. And in order to have a video, you have to have a functioning prototype, even again, if it's ugly. Mike could have used his first, prototype there, which is certainly not as polished as what it's grown into, but that would have done the trick for me. And by the way, we can also use those videos to test, sometimes consumer test, even in the DRTV space. So they prove purpose, And the head of product development of Lifetime, if he said it once, he said it a million times. Does it work? Does it prove function? Okay. So I'm just telling everybody that I'm not a salesman. I'm on the buying side. I'm on the review side. I'm not trying to sell anybody anything, but I'm just telling you, inventors out there, that building a functioning prototype is critical. And I know there's people, you have limited amount of funds. So some people want you to spend it on patents, and some people want you to spend it on prototypes, and some people want you to spend it on going to trade shows, and some people want you to spend it on their coaching services. But you have to make a decision of what's right for you. And to me, doing what Mike did and what he's explained is really the way to get started, to actually see if you have something, to see if it makes a difference, to see if it works. And then as you go forth, like he said, it's not a short-term process, a lot of elbow grease and hard work. What are the refinements that you have to make? All the successful inventors, Carmen, I've ever worked with, Tom Risch with Misto, Josh Malone with a bunch of balloons, with you name them, all the ones that have sold millions of units have gone through the same process that Mike has, and they've worked out the function, and that's always been the thing that impresses me. So I'm on the other side, getting many, many thousands of submissions every year, and it separates, to me, I'm just telling everybody out there, regardless of how you're coached, if you send me in an idea and a sell sheet and a CAD, I don't take it seriously. I don't mean to be mean. It might be something I'll get back to you and I say, I like it, and you'll have to go to the next step. But I'm just telling you, when Mike came to me, I knew right from the get-go that he was on the ball, he was on the right track and doing it the right way.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And it's, for me, it was as this simple thing is, a lot of times, especially with my product, there's a lot of old school thinking there, and a lot of people don't like change. When you're inventing something, it's hard to get people to understand change, because we are so used to doing the same thing over and over again for years and years and years. So, for me to get people to understand, to put down that nail and hammer, and this is going to do everything for you, that you don't even need to grab a tool. It was a little bit of education wise for me to get out there and explain that to people. And of course, the more I did demo, you know, they actually like, oh my gosh, this is really crazy. Most of the time I have to do the demo 2 or 3 times because the first time is so quick. And I often say in fact, I will say that this is the fastest way to hang anything up to 10 pounds, period. Because it'll happen in a matter of 2 or 3 seconds.
You know, Mike, it's so great that you went out to stores. So before I got into this industry in the late 90s, and I've been in there now for 20 some years, hard to believe, but I had my own retail stores and I had gourmet shops. And, you know, this product, Misto, I've talked about 100 times, was an Inventor, came in with it, and we actually demoed it in the store. And I did that many times with new products, put it at the cash register or let people come in and demo their products. And I think that's such an awesome story for those of you who are out there trying to see if you have something. Now, I know in COVID, it's a little hard, but you know, if you're in the hardware space, I would always say, go into Home Depot and talk to those guys that have been there for 20 years, you know, in the department, or go to your local hardware store and they'll, any good owner will let you set up shop. It'll be a lot of fun. Go do your homework, right, Mike? I mean, that's brilliant.
Yeah, and that's what allowed me to tweak it along the way as well. You know, when it was just simple prototypes that I would sit out there on the table with a little tent, you know, in front of the store. I would get that feedback from people walking in, and they would say, I would like to see it do this, this, or this. Maybe level a little bit more. How's it, you know, how's it feel as you're pushing? So I would take those and go back and make my next prototype. You know, I'm probably a little different than most because I have an A through Z personality. So, you know, I don't sleep. I'm always thinking. My mind never stops. I'm always writing notes. Everything I'm thinking about. I have about 9 or 10 inventions right now that I'm constantly working on, and that's really kind of the wrong process. You really should concentrate on one item only and sort of see that through. And if it doesn't work, move on to the next. You know, so many of us just seem to get, you know, 50 different ways, and you get so confused and you really do lose your focus, you know.
My first week 14 years ago with Lifetime Brands, the first week I set up shop with my open innovation program. I get a guy from the West Coast, from Seattle area, that sends me 100 product ideas sketched out like your little piece of paper. And I was so naive and I was all gung ho and I'm going to do a great job and I'm going to be good at this. And I went through every goddamn one of them. I spent like 14 hours one weekend and none of them were any good, really. And I was like, that's the last time we ever do this. I mean, you learn. You're so right. I mean, this thought that you're just going to throw ideas out there. I talked to someone once who was being coached, and I said, "Why did you send me this product?" I called them up. I finally said, "Why did you send me this?" Because it's been done 100 times before. He said, "Because my coach told me it'd probably be good." I showed him 20 items, and he said, "This would be a good one to send in." I said, "That is not how this works." Okay, you know. First of all, your coach has no proprietary knowledge of our industry or what we're doing. I can look at this thing in a heartbeat in the housewares area and tell you one way or another, but other industries, I can't do that. And you need to be passionate, right, Mike? I mean, isn't that what it's all about?
No, absolutely. I mean, you know, you've really got to, and, you know, and we've all got to the point where, and even me, you know, I was going to throw this item on the shelf a couple times over the years, you know, and you often tell yourself, you know, what am I doing? Where am I going? Why am I still sticking with this? You know, but I truly believe, you know, if you have a product that you really believe is going to change somebody's life in just the simplest way and make it easier for them, stick with it, because more times than not, it's going to come to fruition. Whether it's going to be next year, the year after that, it's going to happen, but you've got to stick with that product, you know. And the main thing that I could tell anybody is, like we all talk about, make sure it's going to be a viable product in the beginning. Don't start going on a rampage of spending money and doing this and building that and trying to figure out what you're going to do. Make sure at the beginning that you do your searches. Make sure you have prior art done. Make sure you go through Google, go to the stores. It's always, you know, we can always build a better mousetrap, but just make sure there isn't something that's really out there identical to yours, because so many people do this. Inventors do this all day long, and they'll just go fly by 9 different steps and just waste all this money, and they won't sell a thing because it's already.
Mike gets one free copy. Carmine, make a note. Mike gets one free copy of Inventor Confidential. Signed copy, because that's what a lot of my book is about.
You know, so it's and it's but I love it. You know, I mean, the process is amazing. I would do it over and over again. You know, it's, I think for most of us as inventors and entrepreneurs, I think it's more instilled in you. You know, I mean, Warren talks about it a lot, and Carmine as well. It's not a hobby. It's not something you're going to do on a Saturday afternoon, pick it up again, you know, in 2 months and try to look at it. You know, I mean, yeah, I'm still doing some real estate on the side, but I do this 24/7, 365, and I am constantly pushing, especially now during COVID, you know, having to adapt to what's going on. Total shifts have been made, and, you know, right now video is king, you know, all different aspects of that's going on. And there's all kinds of ways that you can promote your product online, which I do, that I don't spend a penny on. But I'm learning as well, just like the rest of you, and gaining a lot of speed as I go. And so I just been really humbled by the fact that, you know, people are grasping onto this now. And it's been, I mean, I first met Warren, what, 3-4 years ago?
I think hey, Mike, it was longer than that.
Was it really?
Yeah, it has to be longer than that. You know, if it seems like there was probably like 7, I mean, we met down in San Diego, right? At the
yeah, well, actually, I think I met you before that at the National Hardware Show. I think the year before that.
Yes.
And I bought a, you know, and that's the best thing about things like the National.
Yeah, I was only
Show.
27. I was 27.
Well, yeah, and you had hair. That's why I didn't recognize you.
All right, that was kind of mean. That's kind of mean. But, you know, you're right behind me. You're right behind me, brother. I can tell.
Oh, I know, man. I'm just holding on to what I got. So maybe I got to invent something, you know, to make it happen. But yeah, no, it's a great process. I mean, things like the National Hardware Show, getting a booth. They give Inventor booths like less than half the cost of being on the main floor, and everybody loves those. I don't care what show you go to. Everybody migrates to the open innovation booths. And,
hey, let's talk, Carmine, can we talk about that a little bit? I can't help it but jump in there, because Mike, talk a little bit more about it, because look, you know,
they're important.
UIA runs the hardware show, and we are up to 175 booths now, which makes that the biggest inventor pavilion in the country. And I've actually seen articles by, you know, the so-called experts that downplay the show experience. But can we just talk about, because I think it's one of the most valuable. I think if once you've decided on industry that you want to exploit, you know, that going to the show is invaluable, right, Mike? I mean, tell us a little bit more about that. Yeah.
Well, it is too, but I think one thing that we get the misconception as an inventor and entrepreneur by going to those shows, we think we're going to go there and knock it out of the park. We think we're going to have buyers come to our booth every second, and they're going to place orders, and, you know, and things like that. And I even did that my very first show, and I'll admit it. You know, I had a little order sheet, right? I had all these things, and I overspent on flyers and cards, and I thought I was going to see 50 million people. You know, those shows are to go and to learn and to meet people and to understand the value of the process that you're starting to take to get to the end results. You know, and that's the main part about those shows. It really isn't about taking orders, and that might happen. There's people that do that, but you know, the main thing is you're there to learn, you know, and these pitch competitions.
But the inventor corners now, and you're absolutely right, but the inventor pavilions at a lot of these trade shows, even the ones we're not involved in, Carmen, you know, they're set up similarly, and they are as exciting and the most populated portions of these shows. And so obviously we have a very close relationship with Reed Expo, but we also have done the Houseware show. We do the PGA Golf show. And it seems to me that without you even knowing it, Mike, that representatives from all the big companies come through, and there are licensing deals, you know, put together there. So there are some people, you know, I mean, it's only some, but you know, they get deals there. But you're right. Maybe talk a little bit about, you know, we've actually done pitch panels, education forums, and other things too. So you're so right about that.
Yeah, and I've done pitch competition there at the hardware show as well, you know, and it was probably my best experience of being there, unlike having a booth, you know, but you know, just meeting everybody that walked by was really a lot of the best part about it. But doing the pitch, when you do a pitch there, like you just said, everybody congregates to that building, you know, and then when you're standing up there, and that's probably one of my very first pitches ever was at the National Hardware Show, and there's, you know, you got 200 people standing in front of you, you know, like this, you know, trying to figure out if you're going to nail it or something.
They're like living in your misery. By the way, you know, I don't remember which year you did the pitch, but 2 years ago we brought out senior management buying side team from Home Depot, led by Ted Decker, who is the general merchandise manager of the company, and his top staff. And Ted's a friend and a great guy and wonderful. Had so much, remember, Carmine, you met him, right? Had so much interest, talked to a lot of the inventors. He was just named the president of Home Depot 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah,
it's
nice
really
guy.
cool. So, but
Yeah,
we've had some big time stars there, you know.
Yeah, I think I started there the year. Actually, that was really when Make 48 was starting too back then,
Right.
and they were getting to the National Hardware Show.
Oh,
So, but yeah, I mean, I had a couple guys from DRTV up there. I think Mike Lantino was up there. I think there was a lot of guys on the panel at that time, but it was overwhelming, you know. And you know what I loved about it, and when everybody was doing their pitches and everybody had so many questions, when I got done with mine, which was humbling again, everybody goes, God, I don't have a lot of questions. That was great.
Well, Mike, you can handle yourself.
Thinking, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, is this all there is to it? But there's so much more, you know. That was a stepping stone to everything I've learned now, you know.
No, but you're great, and you're also. Some people are much shyer, and you know we've had all types, but we're in COVID. We're doing virtual shows, and we did the hardware virtual show, and we had 15 people on for pitch panels a couple of weeks ago, and we did Toy Fair, and then we did Houseware. So we're going to continue to do those pitch panels through these events, you know, so everybody knows. But
yeah, I think everybody just treat it like you're talking to somebody next to you, you know, and that's the same thing with home shopping. You know, they want you to act like you're having a cup of coffee and talking to your neighbor, you know. And I think Warren sees this a lot too. When you see a lot of people pitching, you know, you can tell they're still trying to remember their little script or their little whatever they, you know, just, hey, nobody knows your product better than yourself. Just get up there and talk about it like it's your son or your daughter or whatever. And I mean, it's so easy that way. Once you get past that, I got to say this, and this, which is not really that necessary. Just talk normally about your product. And
well, you're going to love this, Mike. I just finished an assessment with some folks for the hardware show that have been brought on to, you know, look at ways that they consult them on ways they can do better. And I said, what we need is more TVs, more TV screens. We need a camera in front of it so that it shows the product being demoed. And then we need that broadcast all throughout the entire show so that everybody in the entire show is watching. And they were like, yes, that's what we need. So wait till the inventors come on next.
Oh, no.
1,000 people.
No, that'd be incredible. That really would, you know. Yeah.
Wow. Hey, I'm going to cut in real quick. Hey guys, we got a couple questions that came in, but Mike, a couple times with your product, you obviously love thinking it through, and you've done an awesome job developing and doing the prototypes. A lot of inventors feel that if they don't hit it on the head the first time with their prototype or their invention, that they're a failure. And you know, we both know that that's not true. The question is when do you think, or the percentage, you know, that your product is working, that you can start showing it to people other than, you know, your family or close-knit friends? You know, how far along should it be?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of that's going to kind of depend upon as well is are you going to take it on yourself? Are you going to license the product? You know, where are you going to be willing to go with this, you know, and do things like that? You know, I had at least 200 no's before I got my first yes, before I even got my first licensing deal. You know, I had so many people and you know, sending sell sheets out and things like this, and, you know, trying to talk to somebody on cold calling and trying to talk to somebody on the phone, and people hang up on you and you're trying to figure out, you know, to get to the right person, you know. And so many times I think even when you send things out, and I'm not trying to be, there's a lot of great companies out there, but I think that when you send something into a lot of these companies, I think they're a little bit biased. I think if they think right off the bat, if I'm not going to use it myself, then nobody else will, you know. And I think that's really kind of the wrong way to go about in today's world of inventing. You know, there's a whole world out there, and I think people need to look at it as, okay, is this really going to be something that everybody's going to grab onto? You know, because when people look at it as just me, it's always going to go away. You know,
Mike, you make such a good point, and I can tell you, Carmine, just to add to that, from inside of companies, because I used to be a retail store buyer, right? And so what happens is a lot of times companies, especially consumer good companies, are listening to retail store buyers, okay? And today, Mike, the retail store buyers aren't like the awesome buyers we used to be. No, I'm just kidding. But when I started, it was a little bit different. We were more like gunslingers. We stayed in departments for several years. We got a feel for our customer, and we were making decisions. today people change jobs regularly. They change areas regularly. You now have planners that plan numbers. You have other people that are, and there's not a whole lot of expertise necessarily in the products themselves. And so what happens is companies are getting feedback from these buyers rather than from consumers. And so what Mike's saying is that he's designing and developing his product for the end use consumer. And sometimes there's a big rift there. I get in that trouble all the time, Mike, with the companies that I work with, saying you got to look beyond the buyers and look to what's really trending in America today, you know, in the consumer side. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. Yeah. You know, so once you kind of get over that hurdle, then it sort of all comes to you, you know. But hey, Carmine, let me show you real quick. I don't think you've seen it. I'm going to show you guys real quick why this is 2 seconds. Okay.
I love it.
You're going to love this. So what makes this so simple for push and hang, and look at this. This is what's really nice. So when you take a nail and you drop it into a cylinder, it draws it in automatically with a magnet. So when you walk around your house, it's not going to fall out. So as soon as you get up to a picture, you can kind of see this. You're going to line up the first one, slide it across, you're preset. Look at that. Now there's nothing for you to do. You're just going to walk up to the wall. You're going to make sure that bubble's in the center. One quick punch. Look at that. What I say, less than 2 seconds. You've already put 2 nails on the wall, perfectly level. Each and every time you use it, holds up to 10 pounds, just like that.
The phone lines are lighting up.
So there's your 2 second demo. So
I've never seen these lights come on.
Mike, here's how I do pictures. I just hit a place in the wall, and then when it's not right, I just pull it out, hit another place in the wall, and there's like 5 different holes, and then I just put the picture of it.
Wow!
Look at it again until we move.
Exactly.
Mike, that is so simple. What's funny, Mike, is this, and throughout this, you have called your process simple, but in reality, when you were making your product, there are a lot of different, angles and different ways that had to come into play that you had to, work through those, right? I mean, you must have seen so many different issues with all your different prototypes.
Oh, absolutely. You know, my first ones, where I put the nail in and go clear back to the back of the sheetrock, and then you lose the nail. Okay. So I had to make sure that the right angle that it was going in, not only to hold the picture up to 10 pounds, but also that nail wouldn't go all the way. This nail does not go to the back of the sheetrock, and that's what gives it all the strength. And I got to tell you, when you put this nail on the wall, it takes literally a set of pliers to take it out, and you wouldn't think that with this little nail, but that's how hard it is to get out. And so, yeah, all different things like that, and when I went up to the wall, when I was pressing it in, like I said earlier, most of my prototypes, it was either this pivot point or up here. So when I'd push it in the wall, it would go back like this, would go back like that. So yeah, there's all those little things that as you go along that you tweak it to get it. And I'm a perfectionist. So I probably went too far, even with some of my prototypes, because that's just sort of how my mind works. But, you don't necessarily have to go as crazy as I did. That's absolutely not, but yeah, you're right, Carmine. There's so many little different issues. Even the nails that are extra for you are magnet. They won't fall out of the holder, even when you're walking around that way as well. So all those little things, yeah.
Wow. Is it special? Are they special nails for that product, or you can use kind of any nails?
Yeah, no, it's just any number, like number 17 brad nail, any store you pick them up.
That's so great. That is awesome. Yeah. Really cool stuff.
Now going back to that for 1 second, I did come up with my own nail at the beginning. And it's hard to see here, but my own nail at the beginning, it's hard to see, but it actually had a little step on it. So I actually invented my own nail to go with my product. So this is another thing for people to think about as you're going along. Think about things that you are going to come up with, or things that are going to work with your product. A lot of times it's not a great idea. And I'll tell you why, because nobody, like you just said, can I just go to the store and buy a nail that's going to fit, right? I thought, okay, I'll sell the nails all on the side as well, and then I'll sell it with my product. No. You've got to have something that people can just go down and pick up. You can't have a specialty nail to go with your item. It's got to be universal. So that's a really, really good assembling block that I went through as I went through that process.
Hey, Carmine, before I know we're running short on time, but inventory. Can we just ask Mike about inventory and how much he keeps on hand and how he made that decision?
Yeah, and like what your first order was. I mean, when you threw that switch and said, let's make them.
Well, because I did land with a large company for licensing. Our first order, this product is made in China. I I would love to have had it done in the States, I've talked to Chris a lot, good friend, that's talked about it. When I got started though, back then, the cost was so much, tooling itself was 3 times as much for me. So I just couldn't do it. So we had to venture out and do something overseas. But in that respect, it's all about, then you're at price point, right? It's all about, how much is it going to cost to manufacture, but how many items are you going to get in your initial order? You almost have to step up when you're ordering something like that overseas. It's a container, my product, it's about 10,000 units. Okay. So, which I was kind of okay with, because when I started selling it, it started moving out kind of rapidly as it went along. But then when I got hooked up with home shopping, now they have minimums. Okay. So now you're talking about, maybe QVC will want 5,000 or 6,000 right now. Home shopping wants a little bit less. It's a different platform, and you've got to keep that on hand. So now you've got to talk about lead time, right? Getting it from China. Well, QVC is going to be on the phone, every month you're running through product, now you're 6 to 8 to 12 weeks, from China, to get that product over here. If you're doing it in the States, which my gosh, is such a better program, if you can do it, and get that price down, because now you're, 2-3 week lead time. So you're always, refilling the product, but we're making sure that we always actually order, say 1.5 times what we did before. So, if we're ordering 10,000, next time it's going to be, 15, 20,000, at a time, 2 containers, whatever, to make sure that we do have that product on hand. I just got on with, can I mention something real quick? You guys, I think you guys have talked to Mike before, or My Pillow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know Mike. He's a board member for the UIA.
Yeah, absolutely. I've listened to him a lot, talked to him. Well, so he took on my product. As he's opening up my store with my Pillow. So that's going to be a great venture to work with him. So that's fantastic. And just a little a hit on his deal. That's open to anybody. If you send something to them and they love the product, they'll put you in my store.
No, Mike's a big advocate for inventors, and I've been out to his place, and he's now on UI board. So. He definitely cares deeply about inventors, and he doesn't want inventors getting screwed. So, yeah.
Well, and that's what I really like about you guys as well with UIA, and Warren talks about it a lot, but as you guys, there's no charge. You guys charge nothing. For your input and services for people. So I love that aspect of it, and I appreciate you guys backing us as inventors, because it is a long road,
No doubt about it.
We know where you are, brother.
No, it's so great. And, the good part is while we talk through this and we go through these stages, and we only have a few minutes left. One of the questions was that came in, Mike, and this is something you probably struggled with, was how do you pick your target market? Because us as inventors, we think everyone's a customer.
Yeah. Well, that's a little bit of a tweaking too. As you go along, as with my product, I will tell you, my first thing in my mind, okay, the husband, the handyman, the guys like this, and I started doing some marketing in that respect. You know what I got? 0. Do you know my demographic on this product? What do you guys think it is? Just real quick. Anything?
Older women.
I think women, middle-aged women.
You guys are both pretty much right on. My demographics are 29 to 58, and I got to tell you,
I'm right.
And you probably said that just because home shopping, that's their demographics. But
I just wanted to be different than Carmine.
Yeah. I know home shopping's demographics, so that's why I chose.
But I got to tell you, women, it's just been phenomenal, the following that we've had with it, and I appreciate each and every one of them. I also tell them to send me a picture, video, I'll put it on my website. But it's the same comment, like I had mentioned earlier, over and over. They don't have to wait for their significant other to come home. Just think about it. If you're driving around on a Saturday morning and you're going to like a home goods store, something like that, you find a picture you love, you're having a dinner party that night, you want to go home and put it up, you don't have to wait for anybody. You don't even have to know how to use a tape measure or hammer. You take this home in less than 5 seconds, you're up on that wall and you're done. And that's the beauty of it.
I find Mike, when you move, you want to get those pictures up relatively quickly, because if you don't get them up within a month or two, it seems like they never get up. 20 years later, they're still up in the attic.
Well, I was going to say, and that, see, me being so, A through Z personality, we switch our artwork around about every 6 months. So
okay.
We're a little different, but yeah, you're right.
But Mike, your product, 10 pounds, that covers almost anything somebody's hanging on their wall.
Yeah, and so many people ask me, it won't hang like, big heavy glass, big old framed items, but virtually most anything you go, let's just say you go to like to a Hobby Lobby or a store like that, it'll hang 95% of those items in that store. People ask me, okay, it's only got this much of a throw, right? So if you've got maybe crimps or eyelets on the back of a picture, that's what you're lining up. But this will handle whatever you can think of up to 10 pounds, because a lot of things out there will hang right off the frame. And that's really how a lot of us do it, because we don't want to find nails and screws. So we'll try to hang it. But everything up to 10 pounds, that'll hang right off a frame. So think about that. So we have a lot of canvas wrap art in our house, and I hang things up 4 feet by 4 feet. Now that's huge. And that picture, like you said, Carmine, it still only weighs about 7 pounds. So so it's amazing. Don't let that little brad nail fool you, because it will hold a lot more than you're thinking. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. Some of the greatest, as Warren knows, some of the greatest companies that have been and still have been started in their garage, and Mike's right along that line. I mean, he's kicking butt, right, Warren?
Hey, it's what has always fascinated me about this business. We launched Misto literally out of a garage. Josh launched a bunch of balloons, in his backyard. It's so exciting when you see it, materialize and start to. And you start to see success. And by the way, Carmen, and success is defined by reorders, okay? I mean, there's a lot of folks that might sign a licensing agreement, or maybe they'll try something, but it doesn't work or have commercial success. There's nothing wrong with that, other than, you're not going to, generate a lot of cash flow and so forth. So, but, you want that product to resonate with the consumer. And if they love it, they'll start buying it. Of course, that, as Mike will tell you, brings up other challenges, because you got to reinvest, take that money and reinvest in the future. But that's really, he's had success now, and he's selling them, and people are buying them, and they're reordering. And that is the essential definition of success.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I think my path to this has been more towards the e-commerce and social media wise, and scaling it in that respect. We have done very well on QVC and HSN, but that will go away. Okay, it's nothing's forever. And when you think about those two platforms, and I feel as though, even with my product and a lot of other products as well that people do out there, I think we're only scratching the surface, because when you think of QVC or HSN, you're only focusing in on that demographic at that 8 minutes of that time of that day. And most of the time when you're on home shopping networks, you're on in the middle of the night. I mean, you're on at 3 a.m, 2 a.m, and you think, well, is anybody even going to see me? But it's amazing, because it goes all over the place. But you're only limited to that amount of people that are focusing in at that amount of time. And that's why I say, I think it's, that's only scratching the surface of what you can really, gain by going out there and hitting the masses, in other areas.
Wow. Hey, Mike, so just to kind of close up the show, other than the excitement of, seeing your product selling, what is one of the things that you love about this business that is, the most exciting thing to you?
For me, it might sound kind of odd, but it's not even doing my own prototypes, honestly. I mean, I'm kind of like with Warren and you guys. I'm more to helping the newcomer coming up in the industry. I mean, I spend a lot of my time doing that, and I get a lot of emails and a lot of things. People want to send me their product, and would you like to take this on for me, and all that kind of stuff. But I'm more trying to help people to get to that next step, and not spend all that money, and not waste all of their energy doing it, and try to do it the right way, and that's my passion, really. It's really getting that part of it done.
How good of you, Mike, to do that? Because, I've been doing this for a while, and I'm pretty familiar with all the people out there and the companies and the models. And, there's a lot of folks out in that space that are charging for their help. And to be honest with you, it's my observation that sometimes the help is entirely mediocre, or sometimes it's even off base. And, they're charging a fair amount of money for it. So you have a real story, and a real applicable story that's wonderful. And I'm so happy that you're sharing it with people.
Well, I've been there. I mean, I've lost, believe me, I've thrown my money out there like a lot of us have in the beginning. And I've lost a good chunk of money of people that say, you'll get everybody. I mean, if you have a really kind of halfway viable product, people are always going to say, oh, I'm going to make you $1 million. This is going to go to the moon. And, in reality, I mean, and if anybody's out there trying to ask for money from you, or trying to get something from you up front, man, run the other way as fast as you can, because there's really no reason to do that. If you start hooking up, and there's a lot of great rep agencies, there's a lot of great people out there, but once you start hooking up with all these people, now you're paying this guy for something that you could have done all on your own. But it's just getting in and learning it and learning how to get through those brick walls and get it done. So yeah.
Carmine, make that 3 books for Mike. It's 3 books.
He's gonna hand them out now.
9 books. We're preaching to the choir here. This is like this is great.
Do I get 2 of those books signed?
Oh, you get all 3 of them signed, and we'll send them Fresno, Laguna Beach. Where were you before? Wherever you are.
Yeah.
No, it's so great, man. And Mike, I have seen you out there on social media helping people, and so cool. Very, very good that you're doing it. And I think that, all of our UIA board members are ambassadors. People, when they start turning that corner and they've made that leap, and now they just want to share their knowledge, their experience, and their failures. And I hate using the word failures because we've all learned so much, but I want our inventors to know, and you and Warren have said it so greatly, it's okay to make missteps. Just don't keep making them, right?
Yeah. I tell my wife, since we crossed that line and decided to do this full bore, we're already a winner. I mean, getting it out there and getting part of your money back, or the money that you invested in the beginning, to me, you're a winner, because you did it, you challenged yourself, and you went through with it. And I'm always that sort of positive person, the way I run my life and my businesses and things like that. But and I just believe in yourself, believe in your product, and you can't lose. I mean, you really can't.
Well, it's so nice that you're giving back, and then maybe you've had this experience. I remember after we launched Misto, when we were doing well and we were selling a lot of them, I went to Ireland to play golf, and one night I'm in a little pub, and the proprietor said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, we're playing golf." He says, "No, what are you doing for a living?" I said, "Well, it's a long story, but I've got this product I'm launching called Misto." And he goes, "Well, tell me a little bit about it." I'll skip the Irish accent. So I'm telling him a little bit. He says, "Tell me a little bit more. Tell me." He keeps asking questions. And then he went in the back, and 10 minutes later he comes out, "Would it be looking something like this?" He already had one. One of his relatives in New York mailed it to him. And I said, "This is now you made it, when you run into some guy in a Irish pub that already has your product."
Oh, absolutely. Or if I run into one of my retail stores that I'm in, and when somebody comes up and grabs it next to you, that's the most humbling experience. And you haven't mentioned a word. You're like just the customer, like he is. He doesn't know who you are. Yeah. But when somebody picks it up when you're actually looking at your display, I mean, that's pretty incredible. Yeah.
That's great.
Awesome.
Congratulations, Mike, and thank you so much.
So great. Listen, Michael, thank you so much for being on today. Warren, thanks for being on today. Your guys' knowledge combined is just so powerful for our listeners to hear it, see it, and listen. Keep coming. We're gonna start these workshop series up again in the spring. We're working on the scheduling now, so tune in. Go on over to the UIA website to get more information. Make sure you sign up, be a member of the UIA. It's free, and the amount of resources are spectacular. I thank Mr. Michael Van Horst for being on, the inventor and seller and extraordinaire of the Push and Hang. It's such an awesome product. And as he said, it's simple, but it's not really. It's an unbelievable product, and it works really well. Warren, as usual, thank you for being on. And to all of our listeners, we appreciate you, and keep those questions coming in, and we will catch you next time